Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth grow smaller in the viewscreen. 3 months had passed since humanity made first contact with alien life. 3 months since the Galactic Council welcomed Earth as its newest member. 3 months since everything changed. The stars looked different now. They were no longer cold and empty. Out there, among those distant suns, lived thousands of species. Some were friends. Some were enemies. And some, like the Zelani, had become family. Jake smiled as he thought about his first meeting with Ambassador Krolfin, the Zelani representative who had sponsored Earth's membership in the Council. The tall, green-scaled alien had been nervous, his large yellow eyes darting around the room. But when Jake offered him coffee, Krolfin had laughed. The sound was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Your people are much like ours," Krolfin had said. "You care for others. You build instead of destroy. You will do well in the galaxy." The Zelani had kept their word. They shared their medical knowledge, helping Earth cure diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. Their farming techniques ended world hunger. Their friendship made the vast universe feel less lonely. Now Jake was returning from New Geneva Station, where he had attended the monthly council meeting. The discussions had been boring, mostly about trade routes and mining rights, but something had felt wrong. The other species had been quiet when humans spoke. Their eyes had been cold. "Admiral," called Commander Lisa Harper from her station. "We're receiving a priority message from the USS Titan." Jake turned to face her. Lisa was one of his best officers, smart and careful. If she looked worried, there was good reason. "Put it through," Jake said. Captain Ryan Walsh appeared on the main screen. His face was grim. Behind him, Jake could see the bridge of the USS Titan, humanity's most advanced scout ship. Red warning lights flashed in the background. "Admiral, we have a problem," Ryan said. "We're stationed near Zelani space, as ordered, but we're picking up massive fleet movements heading toward their homeworld." Jake felt his stomach drop. "How massive?" "Over 200 ships, sir. Council vessels from at least 6 different species. They're moving fast and in attack formation." Lisa stepped forward. "Sir, I've been monitoring Council communications. Something's not right. All diplomatic channels to Earth have been cut off. We can't reach Ambassador Stone on the Council station." Jake's mind raced. Ambassador Kevin Stone had been Earth's voice in the Council for 3 months. He was supposed to send daily reports. Jake hadn't heard from him in 2 days. "Ryan, are you in contact with the Zelani?" Jake asked. "Yes, sir. Ambassador Krolfin is trying to reach you. He sounds scared. Put him through." The screen changed. Krolfin's familiar face appeared, but he looked nothing like the calm diplomat Jake remembered. His scales were pale with fear. His eyes were wide with panic. "Jake," Krolfin said, using the human name he had learned to pronounce, "you must listen carefully. The Council has declared my people contaminated. They say our friendship with humans has made us dangerous to galactic peace." "That's crazy," Jake said. "What are they talking about?" "They claim humans are a violent species that will corrupt others. They say we must be eliminated to protect the galaxy." Krolfin's voice broke. "Jake, they're coming to kill us all." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. "We won't let that happen. I'm sending our fleet to help you." Krolfin shook his head sadly. "You have 12 ships, my friend. They have hundreds. You cannot save us, but you can save yourselves. Run, Jake. Run before they come for you, too. We don't abandon our friends." Jake said firmly. "I know," Krolfin replied. "That is why we love your species. That is why we must die." The screen went dark. Jake stared at the empty space where his friend's face had been. Around him, the bridge was silent, except for the hum of the ship's engines. "Admiral," Lisa said quietly, Long-range sensors are showing energy discharges in the Zelani system. It looks like ... It looks like orbital bombardment. Jake closed his eyes. He had seen footage of orbital bombardment from human wars. Massive ships in space firing down on a helpless planet. Cities turning to glass. Forests becoming ash. People dying by the millions. How long? He asked. The bombardment started 20 minutes ago, Lisa replied. Sir, I'm detecting no return fire. The Zelani aren't fighting back. Of course they weren't. The Zelani were peaceful. They had no warships. No weapons of mass destruction. They were farmers and teachers and artists. They had trusted the Council to protect them. Admiral, Ryan's voice came through the speakers. We're receiving surrender broadcasts from Zelani colonies. They're begging the Council to stop. They're offering to cut all ties with humanity. Jake opened his eyes. And the bombardment is continuing. Sir, I don't think they're planning to accept surrender. I think they're planning to kill them all. The bridge fell silent again. Jake looked around at his crew. These people had signed up to explore the stars, to represent humanity, among the civilized species of the galaxy. They had not signed up to watch genocide. Lisa, get me a connection to Earth Command, Jake said. Tell them we need to talk to the President immediately. Sir, what should I tell them? Jake looked back at the view screen, where the stars no longer seemed friendly. Out there, his friends were dying. The first aliens to welcome humanity were being murdered because they had shown kindness to his species. Tell them the honeymoon is over, Jake said. Tell them we just learned what the galaxy really thinks of us. And tell them we're coming home to prepare for war. As the USS Defender turned toward Earth, Jake made a silent promise to his dead friend. The Zelani had died because they befriended humans, but their deaths would not be meaningless. The galaxy would learn that humanity remembered its friends. And humanity never forgot. General Marcus Phillips stood in the war room deep beneath the Pentagon. Around the table sat the most powerful military leaders on Earth. Their faces were grim as they watched the recordings from the Zelani system. The footage was hard to watch. Beautiful cities reduced to rubble. Green forests turned to ash. The Zelani homeworld, once covered in crystal towers and floating gardens, now looked like a burned rock floating in space. How many? Asked President Sarah Mitchell from the wall screen. She was calling in from the White House, her face pale with shock. Early estimates suggest 8 billion dead, said Admiral Morrison, who had just returned from space. Maybe more. The Council didn't just attack military targets. They hit schools, hospitals, farms. Everything. Captain Nicole Carter spoke up from her seat at the table. She had commanded the USS Retribution during the rescue mission to Zelani space. We managed to save about 3,000 survivors from underground bunkers. That's all that's left of their entire species. The room fell silent. 8 billion people dead because they had been friends with humanity. It was a number too large to understand, a loss too great to accept. Do we know why? Asked Dr. San Rodriguez, head of Earth's Weapons Development Program. What was the Council's real reason? Commander Troy Bennett, Earth's top intelligence officer, opened a file on his tablet. We've been analyzing Council communications for the past week. This wasn't a sudden decision. They've been planning this for months. He pressed a button, and alien voices filled the room. The translation appeared on the screen as the aliens spoke. The humans advance too quickly, said one voice. Their technology grows faster than any species we have seen. In 50 years, they may challenge our authority. Another voice replied, then we eliminate them now, before they become a threat. We cannot attack them directly without cause. The other species would object. We need a reason. Their friendship with the Zelani gives us that reason. We declare the Zalani contaminated by human influence. Once they are gone, we isolate the humans. Then, when they are alone and weak, we finish them." The recording ended. The humans around the table looked at each other with anger and fear. The Council had murdered 8 billion innocent people as part of a plan to eventually destroy humanity. "They played us," said General Phillips. "They welcomed us into their council, made us feel safe, all while planning our extinction." President Mitchell leaned forward on the screen. "What are our options?" Dr. Rodriguez smiled grimly. "More than they think. While the council assumed we were harmless newcomers, we've been busy. Show them, Beth." Lieutenant Colonel Beth Turner activated a holographic display. Images of Earth's hidden military projects filled the air above the table. "Project Thunderbolt," she said, pointing to sleek new warships. 50 heavy cruisers built in secret shipyards on the far side of the moon. Each one carries enough firepower to level a city. The display changed. Project Prometheus. Advanced nuclear weapons, 10 times more powerful than anything we used in our old wars. And Project Hades, our new antimatter torpedoes. President Mitchell looked impressed and worried. "When did we build all this?" "We started the day after first contact," Admiral Morrison replied. "We hoped for the best, but we prepared for the worst." "Good thing we did," Captain Carter spoke up. "The survivors we rescued gave us valuable intelligence. The Council rules through fear, not strength. Most member species have no real military. They depend on the warrior caste, called the hegemony, to do their fighting." "How strong is this hegemony?" asked the President. Commander Bennett consulted his notes. "About 500 ships total, spread across Council space. They're used to fighting primitive species with simple weapons. They've never faced an enemy with comparable technology." "Then we have a chance," said General Phillips. "More than a chance," said Dr. Rodriguez. "We have advantages they don't know about. Human military history. We've been fighting wars for thousands of years. We understand tactics, strategy, logistics. The Council species are bureaucrats and merchants. They've forgotten how to fight." Admiral Morrison stood up and walked to the display. The Zalani trusted the Council to protect them. That trust got them killed. We won't make the same mistake. He turned to face the room. "I propose Operation Vengeance. We build the largest military fleet in human history. We hunt down every Council ship involved in the genocide. And we make sure this never happens again." President Mitchell was quiet for a long moment. "You're talking about war with the entire Galactic Council. They have thousands of member species. Most of those species are victims, just like the Zalani," said Commander Bennett. "Our intelligence suggests many were forced to join the Council through threats. They're not our real enemies. The real enemies are the Council leadership and their hegemony enforcers," added Captain Carter. "The ones who planned and carried out the genocide." Lieutenant Colonel Turner pulled up more displays. "We have the industrial capacity. Earth's factories can produce warships faster than any species in known space. Give us 1 year, and we'll have a fleet that can take on the Council." "And then what?" asked the President. "Say we win. Say we destroy their military. What happens?" "To galactic civilization?" Admiral Morrison met her eyes. "We rebuild it, better this time. Based on cooperation, not fear. The Zalani showed us what real friendship between species could look like. We honor their memory by making that dream real." General Phillips nodded. "The Council made a mistake. They assumed humans would roll over and die like the other species they've bullied. They forgot that we've never been good at staying down." Dr. Rodriguez grinned. "They picked the wrong species to mess with. We're the descendants of people who crawled out of caves and decided to conquer the world. We're not stopping now." President Mitchell looked around the room at the determined faces of Earth's military leadership. These were people who had dedicated their lives to protecting humanity. Now they were asking her to let them protect the galaxy. "How long do you need?" she asked. 18 months to build the fleet," said Admiral Morrison. 6 months to train the crews. 2 years total. And you're confident we can win?" "Ma'am," said Captain Carter, "the Council has ruled through intimidation for centuries. They've never faced an enemy that hit back. When we do, their whole system will collapse." Commander Bennett added, "Plus, we have something they don't. We're fighting for our friends. They're fighting to preserve their power. That makes all the difference." President Mitchell nodded slowly. "Very well. Operation Vengeance is approved. You have unlimited resources and my full support. But remember, we're not just fighting for revenge. We're fighting for a better galaxy." As the meeting ended and the military leaders filed out, Admiral Morrison remained behind. He looked up at the president on the screen. "Sarah, I want you to know something. This isn't just about military strategy. The Zelani were good people. They deserved better than what happened to them." President Mitchell smiled sadly. "I know, Jake. Make sure their sacrifice means something. Make sure no other species has to go through what they did." "I will," Admiral Morrison promised. The Council wanted to show the galaxy what happens to species that befriend humans. "We're going to show them what happens to species that murder our friends." Outside the Pentagon, construction crews were already mobilizing. Across Earth, factories retooled for war production. In space, hidden shipyards began working around the clock. The Council had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. The Zelani would be avenged. Fleet Admiral Danny Cooper watched through the observation deck as another massive warship rolled out of the Luna construction yards. The USS Vengeance was the largest ship humanity had ever built, stretching nearly 2 kilometers from nose to tail. Her hull gleamed with fresh armor plating, and her weapon systems bristled like the spines of an angry beast. "Beautiful, isn't she?" said Captain Rachel Miller, joining him at the window. Rachel would command the Vengeance when she was ready. "For battle. Beautiful and deadly," Danny replied. "How many ships does that make?" 437 completed, Rachel said. "Another 100 in various stages of construction. We'll hit our target of 500 ships ahead of schedule." Danny nodded with satisfaction. 18 months had passed since the Council murdered the Zelani. 18 months of non-stop construction, training, and preparation. Earth had transformed from a peaceful world into a fortress ready for war. The shipyards were just part of it. Every major city on Earth now housed military factories. Former car plants built missiles. Electronics companies produced targeting systems. Even farms had been converted to grow food for the massive fleet crews. "Sir," called Commander Alex Johnson from behind them. "Dr. Santos wants to see you in Lab 7. She says it's important." Danny and Rachel followed Alex through the station. Corridors. The Luna base had tripled in size over the past year, growing from a small research facility into the headquarters of humanity's war effort. Scientists, engineers, and military officers worked side by side, all focused on the same. Gold Dot Lab 7 was in the secure section of the base. Dr. Maria Santos met them at the door, her face excited but tired. Maria had been working 20-hour days for months, leading the team that studied captured Council technology. "Admiral, you need to see this," she said, leading them to a workbench covered in alien devices. On the table sat a piece of Council armor, the kind worn by hegemony warriors. But this armor had been changed. Human technology was built into its surface, and strange new symbols glowed along its edges. "We've been reverse engineering their equipment," Maria explained. "Their armor is good, but it has weaknesses. It's designed to stop energy weapons, the kind most galactic species use, but it's weak against kinetic weapons." "Kinetic weapons?" asked Rachel. "Good old-fashioned bullets and missiles," Alex said with a grin. Turns out the galaxy forgot about physical projectiles centuries ago. They all use lasers and plasma now. Maria picked up a rifle from the bench. It looked like a human weapon, but with alien modifications. We've combined their energy technology with our ballistic knowledge. This rifle can punch through council. Armor like paper. Danny was impressed. What else have you learned? Their ships are the same way, Maria continued. Beautiful, advanced, but designed for the kind of warfare they're used to. Long-range energy duels between civilized opponents. They're not built for the kind of close-quarters fighting humans prefer. She led them to another workbench where a holographic display showed ship designs. Council vessels are fast and elegant, but they have weak armor and limited redundancy. If you damage one system, the whole ship shuts down. Human ships are built differently. The display changed to show the USS Vengeance. Our ships are ugly but tough. Multiple backup systems, heavy armor, modular design. Even if half the ship is destroyed, the other half keeps fighting. Rachel studied the designs, so we have advantages they don't know about. Exactly, said Maria. They expect us to fight like they do. Stand off at long range and trade energy blasts until someone's shield fails. Instead, we get in close and hit them with everything we have. Colonel Pete Harrison entered the lab, carrying a tablet full of battle plans. Pete was Earth's top strategic planner, a veteran of human conflicts who understood warfare better than anyone. Speaking of getting close, Pete said, I've finished analyzing their fleet deployments. The hegemony has 5 main battle groups scattered across Council space. Each group has about 100 ships. He activated his tablet, and the lab filled with a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red dots marked hegemony positions, while blue dots showed human fleet locations. The good news is they're spread thin, Pete continued. They never expected to fight a real war, so they positioned their fleets for maximum intimidation, not tactical advantage. We can take them on one group at a time. Danny studied the map. What about their command structure? That's where it gets interesting, said Commander Johnson. Our intelligence network has been busy. Most council species don't actually support the genocide, but they're too scared to speak up. The hegemony rules through fear. Fear of what? Asked Rachel. The same thing that happened to the Zelani, Alex replied. Step out of line, and your species gets declared contaminated. Then the orbital bombardment begins. Maria looked angry. How many other species have they eliminated? At least 12 in the past century, Pete said grimly. Always the same pattern. Find an excuse, declare them dangerous, wipe them out. The survivors usually join the hegemony as enforcers, too broken to resist. Danny felt his anger rising. The council wasn't just guilty of genocide against the Zelani. They were repeat offenders, serial killers on a galactic scale. Well, he said, that ends now. How's the new weapon system coming along? Maria's eyes lit up. You mean Project Thor? It's ready for testing. She led them to the secure elevator that went deep underground. 5 levels down, they entered a chamber that housed humanity's most secret weapon. The room was filled with massive machinery and control panels operated by teams of technicians. Thor's hammer, Maria said proudly. A kinetic bombardment system that can strike targets anywhere in the galaxy. The main display showed a technical diagram of the weapon. It looked like a giant railgun, but built into an asteroid that had been hollowed out and fitted with engines. We start with a tungsten rod, about the size of a telephone pole, Maria explained. We accelerate it to 90% of light speed using magnetic coils. When it hits a target, it releases more energy than a nuclear bomb. Rachel whistled. And they can't see it coming? Not until it's too late, said Alex. At that speed, it arrives almost as fast as our targeting signal. By the time their sensors detect it, impact is seconds away. Pete was already thinking tactically. How many do we have? 20 Thor stations positioned around the galaxy, Maria replied. Each one can fire every 6 hours. We can devastate their command centers, shipyards, and fortress worlds without risking a single human life. Danny nodded with grim satisfaction. The Council thought they could intimidate humanity the way they had bullied other species. They were about to learn how wrong they were. When do we move? Asked Rachel. Soon, Danny replied. The fleet is almost ready. Our crews have trained for every scenario. Our weapons have been tested. Our intelligence network is in place. He looked around at the faces of his officers. These people had worked tirelessly for 18 months, driven by anger over the Zalani genocide and determination to prevent it from happening again. The Council wanted to show the galaxy what happens to species that befriend humans, Danny said. Instead, we're going to show them what happens when you murder our friends. Commander Johnson smiled grimly. The hegemony has ruled through fear for centuries. They've forgotten what it feels like to be afraid. They're about to remember, said Colonel Harrison Dott. As they left the underground facility, Danny looked up at the stars through the station's transparent ceiling. Somewhere out there, the Council leaders sat in their comfortable chambers, confident in their power. They had no idea that humanity's war machine was almost ready to move. The Zalani had been farmers and artists, peaceful people who trusted others to protect them. That trust had gotten them killed. But their death had awakened something in humanity that the Council didn't understand. Humans didn't just fight for territory or resources. They fought for their friends. And when their friends were murdered, they fought for revenge. The galaxy was about to learn the difference. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defender as the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Council territory. Around him, 500 warships materialized from the darkness, their hulls gleaming with weapon systems and armor plating. Fleet reports ready for combat, announced Commander Lisa Harper from her position at the communication station. All ships are in formation and awaiting orders. Jake looked at the tactical display. The first Hegemony battle group was 3 hours away, patrolling the border systems. They had no idea what was coming. Signal the fleet, Jake said. Operation. Vengeance begins now. For the Zalani. Across the human fleet, the same message echoed through ship after ship. For the Zalani. It had become their battle cry, their reminder of why they were here. Captain Ryan Walsh appeared on the communications screen from the bridge of his ship. Admiral, my scouts report the Hegemony fleet is moving in standard patrol formation. They're not expecting trouble. Jake smiled grimly. They're about to get more trouble than they can handle. Begin the attack. The human fleet split into 3 groups, each approaching the enemy from a different angle. This was classic human military strategy, something the Council had never seen before. Most galactic conflicts were formal affairs, with fleets meeting in open space and trading energy blasts until one side retreated. Humans fought differently. They used deception, speed, and overwhelming firepower to destroy their enemies before the battle truly began. Captain Bruce Anderson led the first attack. Group in the USS Thunderstrike. His ships came in low and fast, using the gravity well of a nearby planet to mask their approach. The Hegemony sensors didn't detect them until they were almost on top of the alien fleet. Thunderstrike to Fleet Command, Bruce reported. We have visual contact with the enemy. Counting 96 ships in standard formation. They're trying to signal us. Probably demanding our surrender, said Lisa with a laugh. Standard Council procedure. Jake opened a channel to the enemy fleet. They. Face that appeared on screen was grotesque, with gray skin, black eyes, and rows of sharp teeth. This was a Hegemony commander, one of the warrior species that enforced Council rule. Human vessels, the alien growled. You are in violation of Council space. Surrender immediately, or face destruction. We have a better idea, Jake replied. Calmly, you murdered our friends. Now you face the consequences. The alien's eyes widened in shock. You dare threaten the hegemony? We have crushed species across the galaxy. We will add your bones to our collection. You can try, Jake said, and closed the channel. The battle began with a surprise that shook the hegemony to their core. Instead of the long-range energy duel, they expected human ships charged straight at them, guns blazing. Kinetic weapons, unknown in galactic warfare for centuries, tore through Council shields like paper. Enemy shields are collapsing, reported Captain Henderson. Their armor can't handle solid projectiles. The USS Thunderstrike led the charge, her massive guns firing tungsten slugs at incredible speed. Each impact sent shockwaves through the enemy ships, crushing their elegant hulls and destroying their delicate systems. Behind Anderson, Captain Nicole Carter brought in the second attack group. The USS Retribution and her escorts hit the hegemony fleet from the side, catching them while they were still reeling from the first assault. This is easier than we thought, Nicole reported. They're not even trying to fight back properly. They keep trying to retreat to long range. Don't let them, Jake ordered. Stay close and keep hitting them. The third attack group, led by Jake himself, completed the trap. The hegemony fleet found themselves surrounded, caught in a crossfire of human weapons they couldn't understand or counter. One by one, the alien ships began to explode. Their crews had never faced an enemy that fought like this, with such aggression and determination. They were used to intimidating weaker species, not fighting a real battle. Admiral, called Commander Harper, we are receiving surrender signals from multiple enemy vessels. Jake felt no sympathy. Ignore them. They didn't accept Zelani's surrender. We won't accept theirs. The battle was over in 30 minutes. 96 hegemony ships were destroyed, along with their crews. The human fleet had lost only 3 vessels, and those to lucky shots from dying enemies. First blood to us, said Captain Walsh over the communication system. But this is just the beginning. Jake nodded. Signal the fleet. We move to the next target immediately. Don't give them time to regroup or call for help. The human fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind a field of debris that had once been the pride of the hegemony. But their victory was about more than just destroying ships. It was about sending a message. The next target was a Council supply depot, a massive space station that provided fuel and materials to hegemony fleets. The station's commander tried to negotiate when human ships appeared. Please, the alien pleaded over the communications channel. We are not warriors. We are just supply workers. We have families. Major Kelly Thompson, leading the Marine assault. Teams answered for the fleet. So did the Zelani. So did the billions of people you helped murder. The station was captured in a coordinated boarding action. Kelly's Marines fought through the corridors, using their superior equipment and training to overwhelm the defenders. The station's database contained valuable intelligence about Council fleet movements and supply lines. Admiral, Kelly reported, from the captured station, you need to see this. The Council has been planning to eliminate at least 6 more species over the next decade. They have a whole list of targets. Jake felt his anger grow. The Zelani weren't just victims of opportunity. They were part of a systematic plan to eliminate any species that might challenge Council authority. Copy that intelligence to every ship in the fleet, he ordered. The crews need to know what we're really fighting against. The human fleet continued its rampage through Council space, hitting military targets and communication centers. They used hit-and-run tactics, striking fast and hard before jumping away. The hegemony couldn't predict where they would attack next. After 2 weeks of constant fighting, the human fleet approached their primary target, the Council's capital station. The massive structure was home to over 100 million beings, from dozens of species. It was the heart of galactic government, the seat of power for the Council that had ordered genocide. "Tactical analysis complete," reported Commander Alex Johnson from the Fleet Intelligence Center. "The station has heavy defenses, but they're designed to repel conventional attacks. Our kinetic weapons should be effective." Jake studied the tactical display. The station was huge, a metal city floating in space. Destroying it would be easy, but that would mean killing millions of innocent civilians along with the Council leadership. "Admiral," said Captain Carter over the communication system, "we're receiving a transmission from inside the station. It's from some of the species we've been trying to contact." The screen filled with alien faces, members of species that had been forced to join the Council. They looked scared but hopeful. "Human fleet," said their spokesman, "a being with blue skin and large eyes. Many of us never supported the genocide. We were threatened with extinction if we resisted. Please, give us a chance to prove we want peace." Jake made his decision. "Signal the fleet. We're going in for a boarding action. Objective is to capture the Council leadership alive. Avoid civilian casualties if possible." Commander Troy Bennett, leading the Special Operations teams, grinned as he prepared his equipment. "Understood, Admiral. We'll get them for you." The assault on the Council station was the largest military operation in human history. Hundreds of ships surrounded the massive structure, while thousands of Marines prepared to board. The hegemony. Forces defending the station were brave, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. The battle raged through the station's corridors and chambers. Human Marines fought room by room, deck by deck, pushing toward the Council chambers at the station's heart. The civilians cowered in their quarters, while the future of the galaxy was decided by force of arms. Finally, Troy's teams reached the Council chambers. The alien leaders who had ordered the Zilani genocide sat at their great table, their faces showing fear for the first time in centuries. "You are under arrest for genocide and crimes against sentient beings," Troy announced. His rifle trained on the Council leader, the alien. A tall being with purple skin and silver eyes tried to maintain his dignity. "You cannot do this. We are the legitimate government of the galaxy." "Not anymore," Troy replied. As the Council leaders were taken into custody, Jake received reports from across the station. The Hegemony Military Command had been captured. The Council's war plans had been seized. The government that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years had fallen in a matter of hours. "Admiral," called Lisa from the communication station, "we're receiving surrender signals from hegemony fleets across the galaxy. They're laying down their weapons." Jake felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. The war was over, but the price had been terrible. The Zilani were still dead. Billions of lives had been lost because of Council arrogance and cruelty. But their sacrifice had not been in vain. The galaxy was free from the tyranny that had ruled it for so long. Now came the hard part, building something better in its place. "Signal all ships," Jake ordered. Judge Patricia Young looked across the courtroom at the former Council leaders sitting in the defendant's dock. 6 months had passed since their capture, and the War Crimes Tribunal was finally ready to begin. The makeshift courtroom had been built inside the captured Council station, now renamed New Zephyria Station in honor of the murdered Zilani. "This tribunal will come to order," Patricia announced, her voice carrying the weight of galactic justice. "We are here to determine the guilt or innocence of the defendants in the matter of genocide against the Zilani species and other crimes against sentient beings." The defendants sat quietly, their alien faces showing various emotions. Some looked defiant, others frightened. All of them knew they were facing judgment for the greatest crime in galactic history Ambassador Kevin Stone sat at the prosecution table, surrounded by documents and evidence. Kevin had spent the last 6 months interviewing survivors and gathering testimony from across the galaxy. What he found was worse than anyone had imagined. "Your Honor," Kevin began, "the evidence will show that the defendants planned and executed not just one genocide, but dozens. Over the past 3 centuries, they systematically eliminated any species that showed independence or potential to challenge their authority." The main screen in the courtroom lit up with images of destroyed worlds, burned planets, empty space where civilizations once thrived, memorial lists of extinct species. The audience, filled with representatives from liberated worlds, watched in horrified silence. "The Zilani were just the most recent victims," Kevin continued. "Before them came the Aldari, the Vexni, the Crystal Singers of Andromeda. 37 species in total, billions upon billions of lives snuffed out to preserve council power." Admiral Morrison sat in the witness gallery, watching the proceedings with satisfaction. Beside him sat Captain Nicole Carter, who had led the mission to rescue evidence from the destroyed worlds. The proof of council crimes filled entire databases. The lead defendant, former council chairman Vextar, finally spoke. His purple skin had grown pale during months of imprisonment, and his silver eyes showed no remorse. "We maintained order," Vextar said coldly. "The galaxy was peaceful under our rule. These eliminated species were threats to galactic stability. We did what was necessary." Judge Patricia's expression hardened. "Threats to your power, you mean?" "The evidence shows these species were peaceful. Their only crime was refusing to bow to your authority." Commander Troy Bennett took the witness stand next. He had led the special operations teams that captured the council archives, and his testimony was devastating. "The council kept detailed records of every genocide," Troy explained. "They called it the Purity Protocol. Any species that showed signs of technological advancement, military capability, or political independence was marked for elimination." He activated a holographic display that showed the council's secret files, names, dates, methods of destruction. It was a catalog of systematic murder spanning centuries. "The Zilani were selected because of their friendship with humanity," Troy continued. "The council feared that association with humans would make them harder to control. So they invented the contamination excuse and murdered 8 billion innocent people." In the audience, the Zilani survivors wept quietly. Only 3,000 of their entire species remained alive, saved by quick thinking and underground bunkers. Their leader, Krylanth, had asked to speak at the trial. "I wish to address the court," Krylanth said, standing slowly. The tall, green-scaled alien looked frail but determined. "My people trusted the council to protect us. We believed in galactic law and order. That trust cost us everything." She looked directly at the defendants. "You didn't just kill our bodies. You killed our culture, our art, our dreams for the future. My children will never see the crystal gardens of Zephyria. My grandchildren will never hear the songs of my ancestors. You stole our entire future because you were afraid of change." The courtroom was silent, except for the quiet sobs of the survivors. Even some of the alien observers, species that had served the council for generations, looked ashamed. Dr. Maria Santos took the witness stand to present the technical evidence. Her teams had analyzed every aspect of the genocidal campaigns, from orbital bombardment patterns to the systematic destruction of cultural sites. "The attacks were not military operations," Maria explained. "They were designed for maximum civilian casualties. Schools, hospitals, cultural centers were specifically targeted. The goal was complete extermination, leaving no trace of these civilizations." The evidence continued for days. Witness after witness, document after document, building an overwhelming case of guilt. But Patricia knew the real question wasn't whether the defendants were guilty. It was what to do with them. "Your Honor," said the defense attorney, a nervous alien from one of the Council's client species, "my clients acted within the legal framework of their time. The Council had authority over member species. They believed they were maintaining order. By committing genocide?" Patricia shot back. "There is no legal framework that justifies the systematic murder of entire species." Admiral Morrison was called to testify about humanity's response to the genocide. His words were measured, but filled with controlled anger. "We trusted the Council. When we joined," Jake said, "we believed in their promises of peace and cooperation. But when our friends were murdered, we learned the truth. The Council didn't represent civilization. They were the galaxy's greatest threat to civilized life. And your response was war," the defense attorney pointed out. "Our response was justice," Jake replied firmly. "When legal systems fail to protect the innocent, good people must act. We did what the Council should have done, protected the weak from the strong." The trial's final phase focused on other species that had suffered under Council rule. Representatives from dozens of worlds testified about forced tribute, cultural suppression, and threats of extinction if they didn't comply with Council demands. "We lived in constant fear," said Ambassador Zethka from the Spiral Worlds. "One wrong word, one sign of independence, and we knew we would follow the Zelani into extinction. The humans didn't just save themselves. They saved all of us." After 2 weeks of testimony, Judge Patricia was ready to render judgment. The evidence was overwhelming, the guilt undeniable. But the sentence would set precedent for how the new galactic community would handle such crimes. The defendants are guilty of genocide, crimes against sentient beings, and conspiracy to commit mass murder, Patricia announced. "The evidence shows a pattern of systematic elimination of species over 3 centuries, resulting in the deaths of hundreds of billions of innocent beings." She paused, looking at each defendant in turn. "However, this tribunal faces a unique situation. We are not just judging past crimes, but setting the foundation for future justice. How we handle these criminals will determine what kind of galaxy we build." The courtroom held its breath as Patricia continued. "The defendants will spend the remainder of their lives in prison, with no possibility of release. But they will not be executed. We will not respond to genocide with more killing. We are better than that." Some in the audience looked disappointed, but most seemed satisfied. Justice had been served without sinking to the Council's level of brutality. "Furthermore," Patricia added, "the defendants will participate in a truth and reconciliation process. They will help us identify other sites of genocide, other hidden crimes. Their knowledge will help us find closure for the families of the vanished species." As the defendants were led away, Admiral Morrison stood and spoke to the assembled representatives. "The Council is gone, but our work is just beginning. We must build something better in its place. A galactic community based on cooperation, not fear. Protection for the weak, not exploitation." Ambassador Stone stepped forward with a document that had been months in preparation. "The new Galactic Charter," he announced. "A constitution for free species, by free species. Every world that signs agrees to protect the others from tyranny and genocide." One by one, representatives from across the galaxy came forward to sign. Former Council client species, liberated worlds, even some former hegemony members who had renounced their violent past. Captain Carter watched from the observation deck as the new galaxy took shape. "Think it will work?" she asked Admiral Morrison. "It has to," Jake replied. "Too many people died to get us here. We owe it to them to make this succeed." The ceremony continued for hours as hundreds of species pledged to work together. The Zelani survivors were given a place of honor, their signature representing not just their species, But all those who had been silenced by Council tyranny. 6 months later, Admiral Morrison walked through the memorial garden that had been built on the station's observation deck. Holographic monuments displayed the names of every extinct species, every murdered world. At the center stood a crystal tree from the Zalani homeworld, one of the few artifacts to survive the bombardment. Children played among the monuments, human and alien alike. They laughed and ran together, innocent of the hatred that had once divided their species. This was the future the Zalani had died for, even if they never knew it. Kralenth approached, moving slowly with age and grief. "Admiral," she said, "I wanted to thank you before I joined my ancestors." "You don't need to thank me," Jake Rep